This is the new Rogal Dorn tank, and these are all the options it has. These are all the pieces that make up those options, and you could probably buy 30 of these tanks to make every combination, or you could magnetize.
Magnets, how do they work?
In this video, I'm going to show you how to magnetize this tank. So I've started putting the tank together, but I've left it in a bunch of parts so it's easier to put magnets in it. When I was putting this together, I thought that some of the pieces might actually just be able to be push fit, and I think if you're not going to be moving the model around a lot, once it's painted, I reckon the fit will be strong enough. But magnetizing is fun and it will add strengths to these joints, especially if you are playing with the model in a game. So a couple of tips from my magnet-obsessed friend Bertie to start with. First, I've made one of these magnet sticks. It's a bit of sprue with a magnet on each end, and then each end has the opposite polarity of magnet on it, and then I've painted it red and blue. That way you can make sure that each magnet you add is correctly aligned. Secondly, I always try and keep my polarity consistent between body and attachment. Even though I won't ever put the sponson weapons on the turrets, I want the magnets set up such that I could. This gives me a set plan to work towards, and sometimes you'll notice that it's gone wrong just kind of by the vibes. Just before we move on, a word from this video's sponsor, me. Thanks to me for sponsoring my YouTube channel. I do really great work making YouTube videos on this YouTube channel, and I really want to thank myself for supporting me for this entire time. If you're interested in seeing more of my work, then you can go to this YouTube channel, subscribe, and watch more videos. Now, back to the tutorial. With that out of the way, let's start with the main turret gun. So, each of the turret guns has a different push fit mechanism, and I want to keep them in place if I can. Just add strength with the magnets. So I drilled holes on each side of the turret piece with my drill. First, I use a small pin vise to create a pilot hole, and then I use a 3mm drill bit. Be careful when doing this and do not ever drill towards your hand. Keep the speed low and go in bursts, otherwise you might destroy the piece. If you have a small hobby drill or a Dremel, maybe use that instead. So I lined up where each of these were on the inside of the weapon pieces, and I stuck them into the cavity of the weapons itself. There was no drilling required here, and it kind of almost looks like it's designed to hold magnets. Next, we'll look at the hull weapons. There's two types here, the smaller guns that have these little shroud things on the front, and then the larger single hull gun. Unfortunately, as I said, you only get two shrouds, and they need to be separate so that you can use the lights instead if you want. So I ended up drilling through these and putting a magnet straight through the middle. One side connects to the hull and the other to the weapon. For the hull itself, there's already these square holes, so it's just a case of putting the drill bit through to round it off. For the tiny weapons, I just snipped off the tab that normally passes through the shroud, and I glued a 3mm by 1mm magnet in its place. Doing this saves drilling into a solid tiny piece, and if you use a 1mm thick magnet, you can't really notice the difference. Turning next to the larger hull gun, there's actually a decent push fit mechanism in this place. This step is kind of optional. I hollowed out the piece that normally holds the gun, mixed up some green stuff, and pushed a flat magnet into place, trying to make it flush. On the weapon piece here, if you snip off the mechanism bit, there's a small hole, which I then expanded with my drill before inserting a 3mm by 2mm magnet. Finally, we have the sponsons. I used my pilot hole then drill out method to add a hole in each sponson, fitting a magnet flush in there, then I glued a flat magnet to each gun. The guns will stick out slightly here, so if you wanted to drill slightly into the weapon to put the magnet in, you could, but the pieces are really too small for the power drill, so it definitely would take a bit of effort. Finally, all that's left to do is put the model together, and all of the options, apart from the optional armored platings, are available to you in a secure way. The tank has a huge hole in the bottom, and I glued a piece of rubber metal sheet into the inside of the hull, which gives me a place to store all of the spare pieces so they don't go walkabouts. I hope you find the tips in this video useful. If you do, please let me know, and if you'd like to see more content from me, please subscribe to this YouTube channel. See you next time!